Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. As you can see from the title, today we are working on my funky Suburban build once again. I'm sorry this has taken so long, but I've just had to do like shorter building sessions recently, and I'll tell you why, but that's basically the reason, and that's why this video is also kind of short. So in this one, we tackle the laundry room, the dining room, and the living room. And then the next time that I work on this house, I will do the exterior. So I'll do all the landscaping and like the yard and all that good stuff. So yeah, sorry this one is a shorter one. I'm sorry the next one is probably also going to be really short, but that's just what I've had time to record and edit recently. I have had a lot of doctor's appointments in the last couple of weeks. Like a lot, like basically every day. And I have another one on Tuesday. And I've been visiting with family a lot too. And so I've been driving a lot because my family and my husband's family both live like 3 hours away from me, and so every time I see them, it's like a whole production. You know, it's like a whole day or sometimes even 2 days to see them. So that's been fun. Yeah, and for this laundry room, I wanted to have it be cohesive with the kitchen since I used the same wall tile. So the color scheme is basically the same. The vibe is a little bit different because the kitchen I feel like is a little bit more of like a classic vibe, whereas this laundry room I kind of did a more like boho sort of theme, but I feel like that's kind of unavoidable when you use the laundry day pack, you know, because like that is just the vibe of the pack. And so yeah, I end up using these shelves here, and I did yellow, even though I did the like broom with the blue mounted wood piece. I don't know what you would call it. So it doesn't exactly match, but it's basically the same color scheme, and at the end of the day, it all matches the wall tile, and that was the important part for me. And I ended up putting curtains on this window also, and it's the exact same ones from the kitchen, and so yeah, it's really cohesive between these two rooms. Yeah, so the reason that I have had a lot of doctor's appointments and the reason I've been so busy, if you follow me on my Instagram, you already know this, and I'm sorry that I've kept it from you guys, but I am actually pregnant with my first baby, so that's really exciting. Like I mentioned a couple of videos ago, with all of the various conditions that I have, I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to have my own biological children, so this is really cool, very exciting. But it does also mean that I'm at the doctor's a lot because of all of my various conditions, and it also means that I'm often very exhausted. I have been sleeping a lot. And yeah, just from like regular like pregnancy fatigue, but also from recovering from driving around and being at the doctor's office. Because if you have to go to doctors a lot, like for a chronic condition, then like you get this, but it's so exhausting. Honestly, even if you have to go just for like a normal checkup, you probably get this. It's so exhausting. I hate going because it like that's my whole day, you know, and it doesn't matter if the appointment is only like 30 minutes, 40 minutes long, because it's like I have to drive 15 minutes to get there. My appointment is, you know, like 45 minutes, but not including waiting around, right? Because and so it's like after you include like waiting in the waiting room, it's like an hour, and then I drive another 15 minutes, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's only like an hour and a half, but like it's an exhausting hour and a half. And so it's like I get home from these appointments and like I just need to sleep, you know? And then I sleep for however many hours, and I wake up and all of a sudden it's like 6 p.m. and it's like, okay, well, it's dinner time. I don't have time to go sit at my desk and do Sims, you know? So yeah, that's what I've been up to these last couple of weeks. This dining room took me so long. So it was probably, I would say like an hour, because I spent so much time trying to decide what dining chairs to use, because I immediately wanted to use these from Dogs and Cats. I love these chairs. I think they're so cute, and I think that they match the vibe of the house really well. But I didn't want to have that chair on all sides of the table because it's like too big, you know? And so I wanted to do some like smaller chairs on the long sides of the table, and it took me literally probably an hour to figure out that these ones look the best. I swear I tried every single black and white chair in the entire catalog before I settled on these ones. And it took me a while to figure out which rug I wanted to do. Also, I almost went with a couple of these from Horse Ranch because it's similar color scheme to the cushions on the chairs, but it wasn't quite right for me. I do like this one from My First Pet Stuff, the square, but when I sized it up, it was way too big. I ended up going with this floral rug from, is it called Backyard Stuff? I don't actually know what it's called. The Backyard Pack or whatever. That was like free recently and I downloaded it. But this floral rug, same color scheme, same like vibe as the cushions on the chairs. So went with that. Curtains were a little bit difficult because I wanted to do long curtains, but it was hard because I couldn't find curtains that were like long enough at first because I wanted them to like touch the floor. I feel like it looks really awkward when they're like that halfway length where they're just like dangling. So I ended up going with these from Dogs and Cats. Again, just to match the color scheme. The dining room ended up being basically all blue, black, and white, which wasn't my original intention when I went in, but after I placed those chairs, it was like, all right, well, I guess this is the color scheme. And then as far as like, you know, clutter and decorations go, I was pretty indecisive, but I ended up going with this knickknack shelf and then kind of basing the vibe off of that. I wanted the room to be, you know, kind of cozy, like kind of giving like your parents' house, but also like kind of modern because it is young people that I'm gonna have living in this house. So I didn't want to have like a ton of knickknacks, you know what I mean? And I ended up putting this side table here, and I ended up going with white rather than black just to match the knickknack shelf and also the legs of the table. And it is all like playable. Your Sims can get through and use those chairs on that side. I did play test it. You know me, I play test everything, so you don't even have to worry about it. It looks crowded, but I promise it works. And I used this potted plant from Dine Out to go on this side table. Again, I didn't want it to be too cluttered, so we just did the one potted plant. And then above it, I was really indecisive about what I wanted to have hanging on this wall because unfortunately, a lot of the paintings and stuff that we have in the catalog are huge. They're so big. And I didn't want it to take up the entire wall. Like, look at that. It's huge. It's way too big. And so that was a struggle. And also because, I mean, it's been said a million times, but The Sims 4 and jazz, right? So many of these paintings have to do with jazz music. And it's like, you know, that's great. We love jazz music here. But it doesn't have anything to do with the vibe of this room, you know? It just doesn't work for me. And so I ended up going with these framed photos from Cats and Dogs. Again, I ended up using them, like, that pack kind of a lot in this room. But it all matches, so I guess that would be why. Couldn't forget the light switches. Didn't want to forget the light switches. I put light switches in every room in this house. I was really careful about it. I have been known to forget one, like, here or there occasionally, but I was really on the ball this time. And honestly, it's probably because I've been working on this house in so many, like, shorter sessions that I haven't, like, slipped into that, like, you know, like when you're driving for a really long time and you get like hypnotized, air quotes, by like the lines on the road. That's how I feel when I build a Sims house for a really long time. If I spent like an hour or 2 hours on a Sims build, I feel like I get hypnotized by it. And so I like miss little details that I wouldn't normally miss. Yeah, and after I added that tapestry on the wall in the dining room, I moved on to the living room. And this was not as time consuming as the dining room because I kind of already had like a vision of how I wanted it to look, and so I didn't spend so much time searching for things to match. But it did take longer than like the laundry room did because I had that specific vision in my head that like I was really searching for like the exact pieces that I wanted. Like for the couches, for example, it was difficult because in my original floor plan that I put together, I had those three basic couches all set up. And having three of those identical couches in the room, it doesn't really look that weird because of the way that the couch looks. You know what I mean? That's a normal couch you would have in a set of three. But a lot of the other couches are more distinct looking, and it would be weird, for example, to have three of the exact same couch of this like paranormal pack couch, right? Because it has the pillows and the blanket on the back. Like, it just doesn't makes sense to have three. And so I placed that one, and then I wanted to have two identical ones on the opposite sides, and so I ended up going with this one from the university pack. And I love this couch in tandem with the paranormal pack couch because the blanket on the back really, I think, matches the upholstery on this one super well. It's like the exact same shade of blue, so it's like, it's perfect. And after I placed those couches, I did have like a moment where I was like, okay, I don't want to have too much blue in this room because I feel like the dining room was like all blue and no yellow, right? And I've been doing a lot of like blue, yellow, and black throughout the whole house. And so I wanted to remember to tie some yellow back into the room. And I ended up doing that with a rug, which you will see. I needed to pick a new TV stand because that white one was not going to work. So I ended up going with this one from Cottage Living. And I've struggled a lot with trying to get everything centered. The room is kind of a weird shape. All of the rooms kind of are, just because it was based off of like an actual floor plan. But it's not like a perfect rectangle, right? Like, everything's a little bit off center. So I had to like very carefully scoot everything over to where I wanted it to be. I almost went with this rug, but after I sized it up, the texture just looked really weird to me. And also it didn't have any yellow details. So I ended up going with this one instead because it was blue, yellow, it was a good size. The texture wasn't weird, works for me, right? Sold. I didn't end up putting anything on the wall in that corner there by the TV because I didn't want the room to be too busy. And also because at this point in the build, I was sort of reaching the end of my rope where I was like having decision fatigue. I feel like I was just running out of the ability to choose things. And so I was like, that wall can stay blank. It's fine. There doesn't need to be anything on there. And I had to like tell myself, like, you have blank walls in your house and it's not the end of the world. Like, it's fine. Like, sometimes there are blank walls in houses. It's okay. And I did size this bookcase down because it just looks so huge without sizing it down. I didn't test it, but I think it is still functional, so it should be fine. It's not necessarily even that the shelf is so big, it's that the things on it are massive. Like, I do not understand why this shelf in particular is so much bigger than all of the other shelves. And the books on it just look huge. I don't know. I don't like it. But I put it there just so we have a bookcase somewhere because I don't really have like an office space in this house. And so I made it part of the entryway there, which I did spend more time on than I anticipated because I was having a really hard time picking like a welcome mat. It felt weird to not have one, even though I have that like tile there in front of the door that's different from the other parts of the floor. I still wanted to have a mat there, and I ended up going with this yellow and white one from Cats and Dogs, but it took me a minute to pick that one because I was just like, do I even need one? Like, I have that tile there, but it's like, well, it's kind of weird, right? Like, it looked naked without a mat in front of the door. And I ended up sticking this side table here by our entryway just so that I had a place to put some clutter. And I knew I wanted to put something on the wall above that table, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted there. And so I just sort of like, I scrolled for a bit and then was like, well, I'll just wait. I'll let that one cook. And added my clutter first before I went in and added stuff on the wall. And it took me a minute too to figure out what kind of clutter I wanted to do because I didn't want it to be too busy. And also, like, there's only so much clutter that like makes sense to put in like an entry space, I guess. And so I spent a lot of time scrolling trying to find the exact right pieces that would make sense to put there. And I ended up going with this like change bowl. And then I put a vase and a plant on this table because it did occur to me that I didn't have very many potted plants in the house. There's like a ton in Bridget and Jeff's room, and I've got the one in the dining room, but for the rest of the house, I really don't have a whole lot of plants. And it's so odd because, like, you know, usually when I build a Sims build, I feel like I put a lot of plants, right? Because it's like, oh, it just makes sense to fill the space with something, right? But it didn't even occur to me until this point where I was like, what do I even put in this spot? And I'm like, oh yeah, plants are an option. And so yeah, I ended up going with these little succulents from the university pack. And that vase is from Island Living, and I sized it down because it was pretty big. And then on the wall above here, I ended up using this same framed set of pictures that you have in the laundry room, but a different swatch. And yeah, that's it. Here is a screenshot of the whole house. I'm sorry that it's not a very good screenshot. I will do a walkthrough once I have everything on the exterior done and filled in. So there is that. So yeah, there's the house. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Give me a like if you liked it. Feel free to follow me on my Instagram if you so choose. Subscribe to me here. Subscribe to me on my essay channel. And I will see you guys next week, probably. Bye!